right, so this is notes 8. This is going to be solving inequalities. Previously in class, what we did is we graphed inequalities that were already solved for us. So now we're going to take it one step further and solve these. Something that you should know, and I'm going to put this off to the side, is you solve these just like equations. So you solve them just like equations, but there's one catch. I'm going to say see below, or see example 2. We'll go over that, okay? So, as you can tell in the buildings, there's a bell. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this just like I normally would when I ask myself, I'm solving an equation, I want to get x or the variable by itself. So right here for this first example, I have 5x is greater than 30. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, so that at 5 is bothering 30. How do I get rid of it? I divide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 5, just like if that was an equal sign. All right, and I'm going to get that x is greater than 6. Okay, so one of the things that I want you to remember when you're looking at the greater than and less than is the open side of the inequality sign always goes towards the thing that's bigger. So I like to think of it as an alligator, and you can check out my art skills. So if I have this alligator right here, right, a little eyeball going along the tail, well, that's, oh boy. You can tell why I'm a math teacher. Okay, but so I have this, right? And I've got this guy, and then I got his tail going, and then he's got legs, right? Well, that's actually probably the best alligator I've ever drawn. Except he doesn't have an actual leg. There we go. Now he's got legs. All right, and then a big old jaw. And then we can make some bumps here. And then an eyeball. So what you want to remember is if you're an alligator, you always want to eat the bigger fish. So whichever way the mouth is facing is greater than. So we're going to put bigger here and smaller over here. So when that arrow, so like the point of it, right, of the inequality sign, that's the smaller side, this is the bigger side. Always wants to eat the bigger fish. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to graph this. And in case you forgot, I'm going to put over to the side here a few things to note. When you're doing, oh dear. All right, come on now. Okay, when you have a parenthesis, if I could draw, a parenthesis, okay, that goes with those two symbols, right? And then brackets go with the equal to sign. And what I think of it is when I look at these, it kind of looks like an equal sign already. So if I look at this, there's no equal sign on that. So I'm going to use my parentheses. And now I'm going to go to 6, so right here, right? And now I'm going to look and be like, all right, so am I looking for the numbers bigger than 6 or smaller than 6? So since the alligator's mouth is open towards the x, that means the x needs to be bigger, which goes this way. So I'm going to open up my parenthesis. All right, here at 6, and then I'm going to go to the right. Okay, and that way, so I got my parenthesis, and then I go to the right. Hope that makes sense. Because those are all the numbers bigger than 6. So I could pick any number out here. So I could pick, like right here, I could look and say 9. Is 9 bigger than 6? Yes, it is. And go from there. Now, interval notation, what you need to remember is to go from left to right using the graph. So if you're not writing these notes down, you should be writing them now, because the more you write, the more you're going to remember. Okay? So I'm going to start on the left side of my graph all the way over here, and I'm going to start moving to the right until I get to something. Oh, look, I get to a 6, and I get to a parenthesis at that 6. All right, you like the soundtrack? Dance break? All right, I'm going to pause and start in a minute. All right, so the music's over. Bell's ringing though. Okay, So you're going to go from left to right on the graph, all right? So what I was saying before Farrell Williams interrupted me is that I'm going from, so when I look, I have a parenthesis, and then I have a 6, and then I'm going to the right, so I got to figure out where I'm going to. When I go on the graph and there's an arrow and it's shaded that way, that means I go to positive infinity. And infinity always gets a parenthesis because you can never reach infinity. If I were to ask any of you to walk infinitely far away, you would never get to the end. So you can never equal that, which I would never do because that would be mean and I'd send you away forever. All right, so that's how that goes. So here's the next example. So this one, let's see. Yeah, this one's going to get, this is where we get a little tricky, but we're going to make it work. This is where we talk about that special case, but I'll show you what the special case is in a minute and how we do that. Okay, so I'm going to solve this equation just like I normally would. So when you're solving equations, the first step is to combine like terms on the same side. So if I look over here, I don't have any like terms, but I do have some like terms over here. So I'm going to combine those. So my 3x, maybe, minus 4 is less than or equal to, okay, because the less than's going that way because the alligator wants the bigger thing. And then I have 5x minus 3x, which 5 minus 3 is 2x. Okay, so second step in solving equations, right, is to get all of your x's on one side and all of your numbers on the other. So I have all my numbers on the left side, but there's a variable over there. So I'm going to take that variable and I want to move it over. So I'm going to do minus 3x on both sides. All right, and I'm going to be left with negative 4 is less than or equal to negative x. So having that negative x is a lot like having or it's not a lot like, it is having a negative 1 in front of that. And the opposite of multiplying by negative 1 is dividing by negative 1. Okay, and then I want you to put a huge arrow out here so you know that something special is happening, okay? And you're going to write out the words, when you divide or multiply an inequality. If you're wondering what an inequality is, this is an inequality. It's something that has a greater than or less than to it. It can have an equals, but it also has greater than less than. By a negative. Flip. Oops, if I could spell. Oh, I'm going to try to write that again. Flip the inequality sign. So what I mean by flip is if it's pointing to the left, turns to the right, and vice versa. So this is going to become positive 4 greater than or equal to x. Okay, now here's the tricky part with these two. So there's two things you got to learn about. When we talk about inequalities, we always have to look at the variable. So this is saying that 4 is bigger than x, okay? But another way of saying that is x is less than 4. So when I look at this, the alligator wants to eat the 4. So that means all the x's are smaller than 4. So it's an equal to sign, right? So that means when you have an equal to sign, you need to have a bracket. So I'm going to make a bracket, and I'm going to make a bracket of 4. But I'm going to have it facing that way because this is telling me x has got to be smaller than 4, which means I go to the left. Then I'm going to shade. So much shading. Okay? And go that way. Now when I do my interval notation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the left and work my way to the right. So if I start over here on the left side of the graph, right, I got this arrow that's going this way, and it's going to go that way forever. It's never going to stop. So what I'm going to do is start with parenthesis and negative infinity, because negative infinity is that way. All right, and then a comma, and then my graph goes this way, and then it stops at 4, but it has a bracket. So I'm going to put 4 and a bracket, and that's my interval notation. So the big takeaways from these notes are Solve like an equation. Except you're going to put a star, except you flip the sign, or the inequality sign. When you divide or multiply by a negative number. All right, hopefully that helps clarify. Do your best on the assignment.